Hello, Nate.
Good evening. For the safety of our entire community, Tempe Union continues to practice social distancing. We are limited as to the number of people we are able to see in the boardroom, but we do have several members of the public attending our meeting in person. Welcome, everyone. This meeting is also being streamed live on the district's YouTube channel. Time is now 7:00 p.m. I call this meeting to order. Let the record show that we have 5 board members present. I move to adopt the agenda. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Does any board member want to go into executive session for any item? All right, hearing none, seeing none, we will continue with the Pledge of Allegiance, who board member Hodge will do for us, followed by a moment of silence to honor a student that we lost and a staff member that we've recently lost, followed by land acknowledgement by Mary Keller. So if we can all please stand for the pledge.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you.
Tempe Union High School District acknowledges that our community of schools is located on the ancestral lands of the Akmal, Odom, Pima, and Pipash Maricopa indigenous peoples who have inhabited these lands since time immemorial. With this land acknowledgement, the district formally recognizes that the traditional care and keeping of these lands by indigenous peoples allow us to be here today.
Thank you so much, Mary Keller, and thank you so much, Member Hodge. All right, now we will continue with the agenda with the report from our superintendent, Dr. Mendeville.
Thank you, President Garcia, Vice President Barraza, members of the board, executive team members present, and our audience. It's attendance live, and we've missed you, so thank you for being present. And for those who are viewing at home or listening, we appreciate the time that you're taking with us this evening. Have some interesting and fun things to announce for my report, but I want to first invite Aaron Lillo to the podium. Am I pronouncing your last name the right way? All right, I want to make sure I have that correct. Yes, and Aaron has been accepted into the Modern Classroom Projects October Scholarship Cohort. This is kind of like a big giant deal, and we're so proud of you. This means that from October to January, she will be working with a master teacher mentor to receive one-on-one feedback about materials, processes, and implementation of the blended, self-paced, mastery-based grading learning model, which is what we're really moving towards. So yay, you're going to be at the forefront to helping us guide and lead us in that effort. If you're unfamiliar with the Modern Classroom Project, this is a great summary introduction video that we're not going to show because we don't have the time, but you can have access to it. She will be focusing on implementing this model in her senior English classes as part of our school-wide focus on improving graduation outcomes. This is a huge win for Erin and for all of us at our schools, and most of all, our students. Erin, share us a little bit more, because I'm sure I just did a blush of information for it.
So the Modern Classrooms Project is a way to help students take more ownership of their learning in the English classroom. It's self-paced, which means students are working individually, they're collaborating with peers, and I'm also working with students one-on-one and in small groups throughout the entire class period. So it's a great way to differentiate learning, to target what students really need given all of their wide-ranging experiences over the past year and a half, and hopefully to help them build more sense of why they are in our schools, what they hope to gain as graduates, and launch them into the professional world with the ability to pursue what they actually care about. So I'm really excited about it.
I think that is outstanding, and we're going to look to you to learn more about this so we can share that with our sister schools. So yay, Marcos has you. Where's Principal Tolora? There you are, but I'm sure you're very, very proud, as we are. So thank you, Erin, and please come back and share with us more, okay?
Happy to do it. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. Next, I want to invite Dr. Wilson to share a few comments on the registration process for the 22-23 school year. And while that doesn't sound like it's very sexy or inviting, you know, it's a huge, huge undertaking that Tempe Union High School District is embarking on holding registration this month, November. In prior years, all the years that I've been here now, 11, it's always been in January and February. So we will now be in alignment with some of our sister districts, I'll say it that way, of Chandler and Gilbert and many of the others. Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Mendeville, President Garcia, members of the governing board. Dr. Mendeville is correct. So you may think moving enrollment and registration up a few months is not a big deal, but it impacts so much, and this was huge. When we look at it, typically it would start in the second week of January, but we launched this week, November 1st, with the online enrollment. Our counselors are in the feeder middle schools. There's open houses going on. Matter of fact, that's McClintock is tonight, and I hear they've got a great showing of potential incoming freshmen. So with a move like this, and in order to be competitive, because that enrollment impacts staffing and you want to get ahead of the game to get great applicants, we're moving up course approvals, the course catalog, rescheduling with feeder schools and communication with those dates of getting counselors in there, changing and when you have open houses and communicating that to community. And then there's a whole thing within our student information system, synergy and all of the back-end work to open the upcoming school year. And so I want to do some shout outs because this was a huge undertaking that started this summer and continues even now. So first, I want to thank executive team members Kim Hilgers, Mary Keller, Diane Muehlmans, and Megan Keller. Wait, not Megan Keller. She was a teacher at the school a long time ago, sorry. Megan Sterling. Sorry, Megan. Good, she's outside, she didn't hear that. I want to thank them for their leadership because they involve their departments, and we know that with HR, that really kind of plays into where we typically are doing hiring around end of March. Now this moves everything up into February. I also want to give a big thank you to Stacy White, our Director of Instructional Services. She really we kind of backward designed the whole enrollment and what all needed to move forward. She led that and facilitated that work. I want to thank our IT folks, Michael Andreessen and Melinda Harris, for all of the work they did, the back end with Synergy. And then I want to thank our webmaster, Nellie Mullins, who did a lot of work there to get things ready to go. Executive Assistant to Teaching and Learning, Tam Kaler, and then all of the assistant principals for academics, and then all of our counselors, because that work that they are typically doing after winter break, it is all ramping up and it's heavy right now. So thank you to all of you for all of your efforts. This was a goal we've been wanting to get accomplished, and we finally did it to move it up so that we can be competitive and we can be one of the first out there looking for teachers and staff and be able to compete with our sister districts.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I know it's a lot of work that was taken on by a number of people these past 2 years, so it's not to be taken lightly. I want to express my appreciation for all those who were involved in this huge, huge endeavor. Next is the Good Neighbor Meals, and we received word, or actually Mr. Huffine received an invitation from, he's our Director of Athletics and Activities, from the Arizona Cardinals and State Farm, and they reached out to him, and they want to be able to provide 1 week of meals for 500 of our families here in the district, and we said absolutely. Some of the details are being confirmed as we speak, but the meal distribution will take place before Thanksgiving. We will likely have that at the old Compadre building next door, and invite all of our sister schools and identify families who are truly in need. So I just want to appreciate the generosity of our community partners, especially now when so many families are experiencing food insecurity. And so a public shout out to the Arizona Cardinals and to State Farm. We appreciate that. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mandeville. Next, we have public comment, so I'm turning it back to you.
Thank you, President Garcia, board members. This is the time for public to comment. Members of the governing board may not discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, action taken on as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Normally, public comment concerning a specific agenda item will be heard at the time that item is addressed by the governing board. We are on E in public comment, so each member of the public will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak in accordance with policy BEDH, public participation at governing board meetings. The following limits will apply, and I think our numbers permit the entire 3 minutes. Am I mistaken? Okay. So public commenters, you have a full 3 minutes. A presentation form must be completed in its entirety and given to the board's executive assistant. I believe we have all those. It is approaching 7:15. We have up until that time to accept presentation forms. Individuals may use the attached presentation form, which you're doing right now. Documentation or literature a member of the public wishes to give to the governing board must accompany the presentation form. The district is unable to photocopy documents to give to the governing board, but whatever you have, just provide to us and we'll take care of that. Masks are required on district property, but may be removed when making public comment. I am not wearing one right now because I can't breathe when I'm talking, so I will be putting it on momentarily. Our first comment, Sherry Keltner, did I pronounce? Okay. Sherry, when you see the, begin talking so we get your entire 3 minutes, okay? All right.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all very much for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Sherry Kettner, and my granddaughter attends Desert Vista High School. I have 2 grandchildren that came up in the Kyrene School District. And I'm addressing the decision made on October 13th to remove SROs from our campuses. I read through the minutes of the meeting, and it seems to me that the voices of a few may have overridden the voices of many. Steve Adams indicated a survey sent to all teachers was overwhelmingly in favor of keeping SROs. Shelley Arredondo spoke for all athletic directors. Lauren Miller spoke for all activities principals. Brian Gulliford spoke for all high school principals. All were overwhelmingly in favor of keeping the SROs. There were a few individuals from the community who stated they were against retaining the SROs. In my opinion, they used their own paintbrushes to paint stories. We all have our opinions, and I understand that. Some were members of organizations with names like Party for Socialism and Liberation, which concerns me. We are Americans, and we're not a socialist country. And I don't understand how we can take the argument of somebody from an organization that represents socialism over and above so many qualified professionals that have our children's well-being in mind. They sounded like a sounding board for leftist policies, statements like, why expose children to dangerous and threatening police officers? I happen to be grateful for the police officers in our community. They're there to protect us, and I believe that they joined the police force because they want to be in public service. I don't think they're out to target people. I think that I'm hoping that the board members would not take the comments of a few people that might have political agendas and personal agendas over the voices of the many who really, truly concern our children. I think we owe it to the kids to stop indoctrinating them in whatever the culture dictates at the moment. I think we're stigmatizing police officers, and I think we're giving them the wrong message. I also think that there's no way that we can know whether or not the police officers have prevented anything. There's no way to quantify that. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Liam Halton.
Thank you for the chance to speak, of course. I have the opportunity.
Yeah, can you adjust the mic, Sean? Thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Okay, so I'm a student at Corona. Is it pick? Okay. I'm a student at Corona, and I'd like to speak briefly on the issue of the SRO removal. I don't think that students should have to choose between removal of an SRO or having, students shouldn't have to choose between SROs or mental health office experts. There's something to be said when a majority of students and staff and administration agree that SROs have a meaningful spot in maintaining our campus's safety, not to mention Tempe PD's disapproval for this decision because it immensely reduces response time to problems that could occur at campus, or it could void them of crucial information when responding to issues on a campus. At the end of the day, the people who voted on this issue will face secondhand effects and consequences if someone were to show up with a lethal weapon while an SRO wasn't present, while students and administration who didn't get much of a say in this will face the direct effects. I'm here today because I'm a student at a Tempe Union school, and more importantly, I have a sister coming in next year, and I'm nervous and worried about our safety. I didn't realize I'd have as much time as I do, so I'd also, I also think that some other measures could have been taken, because I do think it's a real issue. There are officers there are people who get targeted more by officers, but I think that this could have been approached with training courses immensely, as opposed to just removing the officers dead stop right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Chrysler? Did I get your last name correctly? All right.
Hi, everyone. I did address the board at the last meeting, and I wanted to come back to continue speaking about the issue as the board continues to debate its position on having armed police on campus. So just for those who don't know, my name is Matthew Chrysler. I'm a graduate student. I do research in collaboration with education advocates across the Valley. I've spoken at many school boards in conjunction with my work there, and I'm here to speak on the agenda item reconsidering the resolution to phase out SROs. Students have given comments here, especially at the last board meeting, but around the Valley, about the problem with having armed police on campuses, from ignoring complaints of sexual harassment and assault to contributing to the psychological stress and trauma of seeing armed police on campus to more direct harms. I would hope that as the board continues to consider its position of placing armed police on campus, that it takes into account not just the criminalization of youth, particularly youth of color, queer and trans youth, and youth with disabilities, but that it looks at the entire apparatus of policing and exploitation that targets youth. In that vein, we should stop using only the language of vulnerable youth or vulnerable students and start talking about targeted students, students who are targeted by truancy laws, state abandonment, criminal codes, high-stakes testing, gentrification, and predatory employers. Identifying how students are targeted allows us to name the systems that target them. I also want to offer one piece of constructive criticism regarding a survey the district publicized regarding teacher attitudes towards SROs. I know through conversations with board members here and in other districts that many of you are committed to centering the most harmed young people in your schools. Teachers are well-meaning and dedicated, but rarely share the life experiences of the most targeted students in our districts, and in no circumstances should their opinions outweigh or be considered independently of the experiences of targeted students. I ask then that the district not center the opinions of teachers in considerations of SROs and instead invest in elevating and understanding the experiences of targeted students in your schools. Thank you.
Danielle Paulette.
Hi, good evening. I'm not here from an organization. I'm here as a Mountain Point parent, Mountain Point Site Council member, and a Tempe Union High School District Community Diversity Advisory Team member. It's my understanding that the educator survey had a very low participation rate, and saying that 90% of Tempe Union educators support SROs on campus is a misrepresentation of the facts. Rethinking what safety means is an important step for the district to take. I encourage you to facilitate a series of roundtable discussions at each school site during school hours in order to give students an opportunity to brainstorm what physical and emotional safety should look like in their near future. Including students across all spectrums would be a vital piece of this plan to ensure that we center the voices of students that are the most affected by our current safety procedures. I look forward to seeing the progress we can make on this.
Hudson Ellis.
Hello, I'm a student at Mountain Point High School. I'm a junior there. basically want to say we need SROs on campus. Have any of you guys been through a school shooting simulator? Have any of you guys realized how long it takes for a police officer to arrive on campus? How many people can get killed if a police officer is not on campus during a school shooting? What police officers do during the school day? I've had Officer Lucero, which I'm sure all you guys know. Officer Lucero is a great man. He taught me freshman year, not sophomore year because of COVID, and I still talk to him today. I don't know what else needs to be said. We have special ed kids with Officer Lucero and any police officer on campus. They know how to deal with special ed. Having a police officer from the street, not from the street, but having a normal police officer come in, they don't know how to deal with special education students at all. With having an SRO on campus, they know how the special education kid acts. I mean, it's pretty plain obvious what needs to be done. I think with the majority of 92% or 90% of teachers with the survey that came out said yes on SROs. All principals said yes. All athletic directors said yes. Why don't we do a survey for students? Why has not more thought gone into this? No one knew about this. I've talked to Officer Lucero and other police officers from the city of Phoenix. They had no idea about the board meeting that went on, so they could not come and talk. I believe it was 9 students from Desert Vista do not portray the entire Tempe Union School District. Every student is different, and yes, there may be some students that don't agree with police officers, but there's also some students that don't like teachers. Are we going to get rid of the teachers? There are some bad police officers, and there are some bad teachers. Are we going to get rid of teachers? All right, thank you.
Isabel Jaycott? Jaco. Thank you. I want to make sure I have that correct.
I am a victim of sexual violence, and in these past few weeks, I have not felt safe on school anymore. School is the one place every student should feel safe and comfortable no matter what. I'm afraid in the halls, I'm afraid walking to my classes, yet I feel with an SRO, I would feel much more comfortable. I would know there is someone, an armed officer, who has the power to protect me versus people who are not trained for that. These officers are also trained against gun violence and physical violence, such as fights happening between students. They're trained for emergencies such as lockdowns, and they are trained for unstable students, whether that unstable students is because of something emotional going on or something just mental, something they cannot control. An armed officer can bring a sense of safety to students in a time of need. Personally, an SRO, in my case, when I brought forth my issue, I was literally told that I had to go home because they were concerned for my safety, as there was no one to protect me if my abuser went towards me. I would have also had someone to protect me and understand my emotions rather than people who were not trained for that. I would have had someone taking my statement on campus on spot rather than waiting several hours. And I'm not the only person who will go through this. 1 in 5 women are assaulted sexually somehow, and 40% of victims do not speak up. Chances are there is at least 100 other girls who have gone through this at my school alone, many more in the district, many more who aren't feeling safe in school. As a matter of fact, I have friends who do not feel safe in school currently. And they have come forward and told me this. They have told counselors and school administration. Yet, since we don't have an SRO, there's nothing they can do. And when there's gun threats, there's nothing they can do. We don't have someone there to respond, and response time takes quite a long time. Sorry. I think that's all. Okay. Wait. Sorry.
You're fine, you're fine.
But basically, I just want to say, like, for me personally, and for a lot of students that I know, having someone on campus would help them a lot. Just feeling safe, knowing someone's there to help, rather than the way knowing you have at least 10 minutes until someone's there to help you, especially as guns are becoming more popular, especially school shootings.
Thank you. Next, we have Lori Sherman.
Hello, Governing Board members and Superintendent Mendeville. I would like to request the Governing Board share the specific source of the U.S. Department of Education data that was quoted in the October 13th board meeting agenda. I've requested it via email from each of you individually and didn't receive a response. Also, in reference to comments last week regarding the City of Phoenix not working as closely with the Tempe Union School District as the City of Tempe, it should be noted that the City of Phoenix covers over 30 school districts with a population of over 1.5 million people, and they obviously don't have the same amount of commitment and resources to the two Tempe Union high schools in Phoenix as the City of Tempe that has significantly smaller population, fewer school districts. I would like you to reconsider not maintaining the SROs at all 6 schools for the 2021-2022 school year and reinstate the SROs at Desert Vista and Mountain Point. Thank you.
Kelsey Heck. Did I pronounce that correctly, Kelsley?
It's close enough.
What is the pronunciation? When you come up to the microphone, let me know.
My name is Kelsey Hake, but no one ever says
Hake.
it right, so
Well,
it's
I want to
not a
say it
huge
right,
deal.
so it's important to me. Hake, thank
I
you.
appreciate that. So thank you for letting me speak. Again, my name is Kelsey Hake. I am a mother of 3 kids. They're all in the Kyrene School District right now, as they are 7, 5, and 3. I'm a Alaska Native woman born and raised on my ancestral lands. I'm Inupiaq. I've been in the Phoenix area for about 10 years, but was born and raised there. I am currently a law student at the University of Pennsylvania, but because of the pandemic, I've been able to remain here. I do see your Penn sticker, so fellow Penn grad there. So I would definitely like to cover the same issues, which is the SROs. It was abysmal, in my opinion. So as I said, I am a woman of color, Native. We suffer from the worst statistics when it comes to sexual and physical assault. 84% of Alaska Native or Native American women are victims of sexual or physical assault in their lifetime. 84%. Okay, let's just highlight that. Among that, 56% of Alaska Native or Native American women are victims of sexual assault. We are more likely to be sexually assaulted and or raped than to graduate high school. Okay, than to graduate high school. And I believe this is truly because we don't have the resources that we need to be able to have the safety, to have the police officers, to have anything like that. A lot of our villages, especially where I'm from, we live in the land size of Minnesota, and we don't have police officers, and our statistics are so bad. And yet we're talking here about removing the SROs that are here to protect our students. This was hastened, this was fast. This hit us like lightning. We had no idea this was going to happen in the first place, and yet it did. We had no parent input. These are the people that are raising these children. We had no student input of the people that, do they feel safe already? We just removed them based off a couple different testimonies. So while I think we could explore this option, I think it was done poorly. Why don't we look at training some of the students in the sense of providing them with resources to understand what police officers do, to be able to create that healthy relationship between SROs and our students. Not only that, why don't we have more additional training for our SROs so they can understand their role a little bit more as well. On top of that, I fully believe that this was a bad resolution, and I'm scared for my children, my native children that are going to be going through the Tempe Union School District without the SROs that are here. Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
All right, thank you so much. Next, we have consent agenda. I move approval of consent agenda items 1 through 12. May I have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you so much, Member Hodge. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have business services, approval of the IGA with City of Tempe for youth-led urban cooling project hosted by the city's Office of Sustainability. Dr. Mendeville?
Thank you, President Garcia and Vice President Barraza, members of the board. This actually is a really neat project. Cool kids, cool places, cool futures. It's a youth-led urban cooling project hosted by the City of Tempe Office of Sustainability. The project is designed to advance extreme heat resilience in the Escalante neighborhoods and those near McClintock High School and Gilliland neighborhoods. Those are near Tempe High for at least 2 school years. I imagine that with the successfulness with this project, it will go through all the schools, but I applaud the City of Tempe and the Office of Sustainability as they move forward with this initiative. This is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and young people who participate in this project will collaborate with local artists, city staff, and community partners to complete projects addressing environmental inequities and sustainable solutions. We're excited to partner with the City of Tempe and our students with this project. It's just fully in alignment with our vision for our schools, our values, and it's just a great opportunity for our students and the city to partner with this endeavor. So administration highly recommends this IGA.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mendeville. Board members, any thoughts, comments, or questions on this item? Hearing none, seeing none. All right, I move approval of item G1. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you so much, Member James. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have Human Resources 1, addendum to the superintendent's contract performance-based pay plan fiscal year 21-22. Dr. Mendeville.
Thank you, President Garcia and members of the board again. Every year I present several goals to the governing board, and just like our teachers and staff, they have performance objectives for performance-based. The statute does require that I do the same, and there's a lot of flexibility with that. And so for this year, I've selected two areas that I believe need attention and for review, and one is the looking at our restorative practices that we began with an introduction of professional development this school year. It falls in tandem with what we are doing with our disciplinary practices, and to have a different lens when we're looking at student behaviors, because we have students that are knuckleheads sometimes, quite frankly, and they make poor choices. And so we want to be in a position where we can look at the behaviors and what's behind that. Why are students behaving in the manner that they are behaving? We're human beings. Inherently, we don't choose to misbehave solely. So we want to do right by what we're doing in school, and kids want to be good, basically. I fundamentally believe that. I have 35 years of experience with that, and our students have not disappointed me in years past. But this restorative mindset was introduced to our teachers and staff and administration at the beginning of the year. And what I want to do is to look to see, with the mindset foundation that we set forth at the beginning of the year with each of the schools, and to see how is that changing, because we've got professional development and going on throughout the year with our teachers and our administrators. When students do make poor choices, how are we responding to those? And so this is a first-year rollout of restorative mindset practices. It's something that it's a mindset that we wholeheartedly believe in the district. And so that's a cultural shift, I just think, in general, and that's going to take time, and we have the time to do that because it's important for our students and for our families. And so I will be looking at that and analyzing also the educational impact with our students, because one of the goals with the restorative practices is to also to keep our students in school. And that is a priority for us, because when they're away from school, they're going to fall further and further behind. And when that happens, it's very hard for a student, much less for an adult, to have any hope that I can carve my way out of this, and so the more we can keep our students in school, that is the goal with that. So I'll be making recommendations on the next phase of the implementation for the 22-23 school year. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 is looking at a strategy that the district has expanded on over the years using academic lab. Tempe High calls it Buffalo Block. I mean, the schools call that period something different at each school. But it's basically an academic lab, and the mindset around that is to, it's because it's built into the school day for students who are struggling in their classes, is to go to academic lab and have an alignment of intervention possibilities with a teacher in that lab, and get reteaching possibilities within that time, do the work that's assigned, have opportunities for to have instruction just be presented in a different way for that student with that particular skill. Now, for that to happen successfully, there has to be a triangular alignment with the assigned teacher in that content area, the teacher in the academic lab, and then the student. And so I want to be looking to see, okay, what do we have in place at the schools, because it's conducted during the school day. Some schools had it 1 period, some schools have had it 2, 1 period per week. Some have expanded to 2 and 3 and 4 periods almost every day. And each period takes the teacher, so we pay a teacher to do that, but it also takes away instructional minutes from the entire day of the students. And so we're going to look at that, and I want to see, are we getting basically the bang for our buck in doing this, because we're putting resources by hiring the teacher, but unless there's a solid triangular articulated alignment with that strategy, I don't think we're going to what I think we should be getting out of that time. I could be wrong, but that's the purpose of reviewing this. And so that is my second goal. And then we'll make recommendations for the 22-23 school year, because there are budget implications with that as well.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mandeville. Board members, any thoughts, comments, or questions on superintendent's strategic goals? Board Member Montero.
Thank you. Just a quick question, because I know you talk about looking at the 3 years of available data, and just out of curiosity, what is the type of data that you're looking at to make that determination, or what are the specific things you're looking at to make that recommendation?
Great question. Thank you, Member Montero. Some of the information is going to be we're going to be looking at grades. Okay. We have logs of which students should have been attending academic labs. So I'm going to dive into really the details of, okay, when they were in there, were they actually doing what they were supposed to be doing? Or were they just going in there and finishing their homework, which isn't a bad thing either, but that's a homework club or lab that you can do after school, not during the school day. So looking at grades, looking at, again, if kids are assigned in there for English, Is there a coordinated effort by the referring teacher to the academic lab teacher, and then to see if there's this coordinated triangular effort? So I'm going to be really looking at instruction, the lessons. Did they do well? Did they just get their homework done? Because all that is in this data and the log. So I'm going to be sifting through that to determine, okay, did this kid who went into academic lab because he's a senior or junior in English for the last 2 years, junior and then the senior, did he graduate because he was in this academic lab and received the intervention support that he needed? As one example. I'm probably creating a lot more work for myself and others, and I apologize to the executive team, but I think it's something that's worthy of analysis to determine, are we, not necessarily we, but are our students getting the benefit out of this? Because that's the whole purpose of doing it.
Member Hodge?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation on your goals. My question is kind of for both of them. When you are gathering the information for restorative practices, are you going to include student input, like maybe, like bringing, like how you have your superintendent group? Yes.
SSAC?
Yes, but I'm saying, will you bring that from all the six schools to help you collaborate with the restorative practices?
Right, great question, Member Hodge. My goal is to look at, because it's going to be, we now have the ability to dive a little bit deeper into the discipline that is rendered for students who've made poor choices. Okay, so we're going to look at that and see, okay, what, if you have a restorative mindset, what has taken place with the family, with the student, with the teacher, so that there's, you restore the relationship, because that's a big piece of restorative practices. And so what did the counselor, what did the assistant principal, what did the teacher, what did the student, what did the parents, what was transpiring with some of these infractions that may have typically been referred to a long-term suspension or something of that nature, but instead, because of a restorative mindset, and we took actually the effort to talk with family and understand the background of why this is happening, and then maybe there was something in the classroom that we discovered through that dialogue that I want to see, okay, could this have been just a typical, all right, you're suspended for 5 days or 8 days or whatever the infraction might have been, but instead you were able to stay in school, we were to get you to some counseling, we were to get your mom and your family together, your aunt or whomever it might be considered the family, and work with the counselor 3 or 4 times to understand some background, because then that shapes differently. We have the log in synergy with our student reports to access some of that information. So I'm going to be looking to our counselors and to our APs on some of the data that I know is stored confidentially, of course, in our databases. So it's going to be uniquely looking at how we handled certain situations. And I know with my conversations with Dr. Wilson as the Associate Superintendent and Mr. McDonald in his role and David Huffine and others, we are looking at every situation that comes forward to see how have we responded in a restorative manner, in the mindset, what are the actions of the school site, what were the conversations, what was your thought process, all of that. I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to try to put that in a manner to show a picture. And it may be that I just study very closely one school, but it's going to give us a strong picture. I want to look at all the schools, though.
Okay.
That help?
That helped. On a separate note, I'm going to kind of give my age, but when we were in school, we kind of actually had accountability between the students because we had team courts in all our schools. And that kind of helped with restorative because it was easier when the kids were, it wasn't that they took the discipline, but it was really good that the kids can get a feel of what was going on and how it was like a peer judgment. And I don't know how that works now, but I know that it was successful when we were in school, that we had the teen courts within our schools, so.
Well, but part of that too is when a student has a fight or disagreement, and social media is a huge piece in what we are challenged with today, and which complicates it even further. But there's an opportunity for students to make it right with their friend.
And that's exactly what that was about.
And so that's part of that restorative mindset, and working with those who are involved, and whatever the situation may have been. That takes time, it takes patience, it takes a certain level of training and mindset, and that's what our goal is, because it's a cultural shift, and one that we're prioritizing and value, because it dignifies the student and it dignifies everybody involved, actually.
One last question is on your goals with the academic labs. Is there, I don't know if it's being done, but is there any possible way that they can do peer tutoring in the academic labs if some kids, at that time in the lab that because they're in the, they're in the classroom with them, they understand the work. Sometimes it's easier from a peer to a peer to help out too. So I'm just wondering, is that something that we can see about? Because I know they do have peer tutoring, but usually it's after school or at a different time. But I was just wondering, could that be encompassed into the academic lab also?
Right, and so if you recall, we had a presentation with Brian Johnson, Dr. Johnson from Desert Vista, and we are expanding the peer tutoring program to all of our schools, so he's working on that this year. And they are before school, during school, after school, 2 in the morning. I mean, these kids are tutoring kids all throughout the day, and so I respect and appreciate that. Academic lab, however, it would have to be a very coordinated effort with upperclassmen who have time that they can do that in that lab. The key, though, do we have that targeted, triangular, articulated understanding of what particular content or target area needs to be addressed, that they're not learning, standard, if you will. And that's the part that's the struggling part. That communication piece that should be happening is somehow lost somewhere, and that's what I'm going to try to uncover. It may be happening at some school sites and doing a nice job. I hope so, but we'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Vice President Barraza.
I think Board Member Hodge had it kind of where I was in framework with student input. My experience being the teen parent and always suspended, I probably would have been the poster boy for an academic lab, participation. So when I think about it and how to elevate students and get them out of the situation they're in for whatever reason, I think about, they're working on their homework. They should be working on the other assignment. As a student, I'm going to work on my homework. That's what I see value in, especially if I have it due today. If I were suspended or, something with my child and I had to go do something, and I'm treading water, really, it is at the end of the day. And in my head, I think if I could just turn in that assignment for 7th period as opposed to working on what I'm working on, I see value. I think in the end is that input's going to help understand us how we can pull them out of that situation, because it's not just one class or 2 classes. Generally, it's going to be a compilation of classes, and it's going to require extended deadlines and some flexibility among our staff members, our teachers, to understand that what we're trying to do is intervention, not give a kid a pass. And so, being able to convey all those aspects are important. I just really would like to see some type of evaluation system in terms of, not evaluation, maybe even just how did you do to a student, like an academic lab, something where they can write down their thoughts. Why are you working on your homework? What do you see value in that? Because again, at the end of the day, I'm like, we can do so many things, but if the student still only sees value in trying to keep up, and if you can help me and say, I see why you're doing that, let me go talk to your teacher or your teachers or staff members and say, it's really about a plethora of classes. And then you can get me to stop doing the homework in ACT Lab, and you could do me, I can then start doing the project stuff. Because I'm really seeing value in what I see as a student. And so I need you guys to understand that, so that way I can get on your level and understand why, we need to go with this project first. So yes, it's an entire communication aspect, making sure that everything's clarified. We have a great roadmap. I really appreciate you putting this goal into place. I think it's how we lift up students and how we strive to fail forward. Failure is a part of success. You cannot be successful without putting yourself out, and that means failing at time to time. It's important to know that, that's just the rhythm of things. So,
Well, my biggest concern and hope, actually, more than concern, is that we maintain the student's ability to have hope
that's it.
in the day.
That's it.
And so,
Because
because
trying to survive.
our kids are
otherwise.
struggling with lots of things. This pandemic was yet another thing thrown at all of us. But our students have suffered in a lot of different ways, and having more academic labs, I think the mindset was to provide opportunities for them to have interventions, because we have a lot of splintered skills, learning skills that students have come to school this year from, because they've not been in a typical instructional setting. So we're trying to fill those holes, the gaps that may be present with certain students. And I'm all for doing that if it's working. So so part of our review in any of our programming is to say, okay, how are our students benefiting? And so that's the whole goal behind this, because if we're taking away instructional minutes during the day, we better have some positive outcomes, because if not, we can return those instructional minutes back to the school day for the entire school. Does that make sense? And so the instructional minutes are real pivotal. Now, I'm going to say this publicly, but the other piece that we are working on is that how are our teachers having that intervention time with their students in real time during that class period. And I have an elementary background. I was an elementary principal, so that was commonplace in our planning as elementary teachers. It's a little harder when you have 30 kids, and I know that from a secondary setting, but I know some are doing it. So we want to be able to provide that tier 1 in the classroom, real-time interventions, so that they don't have to even go to an academic lab. And I know that's a lofty goal, and I believe that we will get there. But we're going to study this to determine, okay, are our students having success with this? Is really the question I want to pose.
I appreciate your usage of the word hope. That, I think, encompasses how I felt, during my experiences in school, was just trying to get through, just trying to tread water. All the interventionist stuff just kind of went over my head. I'm just trying to breathe and just trying to get through it. So that hope aspect, I think, is essential and very important. I appreciate your goals. And yeah, definitely, I think this is something that we can really turn into a really restorative justice practice in our education system. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Member James?
Okay, yes, so I was looking at your restorative justice goal, and the recommendations that you make at the end of the study, are you going to be looking at different PDs, different, like ACEs training for all staff, and recommend those as well as part of the recommendations, maybe even grant funding for those trainings to continue on a regular basis throughout the year to bolster the knowledge of our staff?
Member James, absolutely, because this isn't a 1-year, 2-year deal. This is going to be an ongoing, this is going to be a part of what Tempe Union does. It's going to be commonplace. It needs to be commonplace, just natural. When you come to Tempe Union as a teacher, as an administrator, as a student, you're going to be treated with dignity and in a restorative manner, because that's what this process lends itself too, is providing that hope, that dignity to students. I believe it's a better way of approaching when students do make poor choices and they're emotional and passionate about certain things, and it ends up in a poor decision. We need to have a better understanding and mindset and to be more forgiving. And so I think part of this whole process is understanding that and having staff understand their part in this process, because it's not, it takes a village to raise a child, and that's a little village just in that practice, in my way of looking at that. So yes.
Thank you, Member James. And I just have a quick question. When we're looking at the, obviously, evaluation around the academic labs, will you be talking about the relationship and the interactions with kind of our pre-existing wraparound services, so like AVID and that relationship with how that corresponds and how it impacts individual programs like SPED, ELL, Native Indian Ed, et cetera, and how that relationship works with the academic labs?
Great observation, President Garcia, and question. Yes, because one of the reasons why we have expanded our AVID program is because many of the Wicker strategies fall in alignment with what should be happening in a lab if it's done properly. And also within the homeroom or the classroom teacher, the referring teacher, those strategies should be happening naturally. So it's going to be looking at all those elements that should be factoring in, because that academic lab teacher should have training in a lot of these strategies to assist students when they're struggling with whatever targeted standard that they need help on. The goal is to make sure that students are making connections with their learning and that it makes sense. There's not the continued disconnection or deeper disconnections with their learning. And if that's done properly, we can begin making better connections so there's greater success in the classroom in real time.
Thanks so much, Dr. Manville. Board members, any other thoughts, comments, or questions? Member Montero.
I know we've spent a lot of time on this, so I'll be quick, but I wanted to address Member Hodges' point about the peer tutoring aspect. Like Dr. Johnson mentioned quite some time back, I was part of the Desert Vista peer tutoring program, and we did have that during ACT Lab. I'm not sure if they're continuing to do it. I think, they are? Okay. And so I had the opportunity to work closely with our counseling department, who were able to help identify kids in need, whether it be academically, but that time was spent very wisely, I think, whether it be academic support or just needing someone to talk to. I loved those sessions very much, but I think that's something to keep in mind and maybe even look at what that model is that Desert Vista uses when you're thinking about recommendations for academic labs moving forward.
Absolutely, thank you.
Member Hodge.
Sorry about that. Also, a lot of with the restorative practice and with the ACT Lab, I want to make sure it's tied into the social emotional part of it too, because if we don't address the feelings behind it, then sometimes the grade doesn't come up for, it kind of balances it out. So just to see if there's also a time that maybe in ACT Lab, if they have to go for social emotional at that time when they're talking about school, just adding it together, because they're one in one. They go hand in hand.
Good points, but we have wraparound support services within our multi-tiered system of support that I know for a fact, as I've heard twice this year, where during ACT Lab, you're not going to want to learn if you have on your mind something that may have happened last night with a family, or you had to move out of your house, or you had a death in the family. So we address students who need immediate social emotional support in that time as well. So
okay,
yes,
that's why I wanted to
will
make sure
continue.
that if it's either or, if they, at the time, because they do go hand in hand.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up that point, Member Hodge, and thankfully to Member Montero's initiative on social emotional wellness. It's really put us in the forefront and prioritizing, so thank you. All right, if there aren't any other thoughts, comments, or questions, okay. So I move approval of what item? H1, addendum to superintendent's contract, performance-based pay. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have information on item number 1, resolution addressing equitable discipline practices approved on October 13th. As a general reminder, this is for information only. This is not for discussion. And for the item here at the November 17th meeting or at an earlier date and time, governing board members will discuss and consider for approval a resolution to clarify, revise, or supersede the resolution that was approved at the October 13th meeting to help clarify key points in there and provide clarity because of the call for that clarity, and to kind of address also elements of misinformation too. Dr. Menderville, are there any other items you'd like to address for this?
No, other than just I support the, the need to revisit this, which is the purpose behind this, and to provide clarification, because we have listened. You have listened to the community, to our teachers, and so I think that needs to be known. It may not feel like that right now out there, but you have 5 board members that are listening, and so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Mendenville. All right, next we have communications from governing board members, and we'll start with Member Hodge.
Remember, I asked you can we mix it up?
I mean, it's easy to do it because you're at the very end, and it's just been a habit at this point. But yes, we can go to whoever wants to.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to start the singing.
I got to start the singing? Oh, yes. Okay,
And, you,
so
and your quote.
Yes. You know what? First off, I don't have a quote. I'm sorry. But second off, we have a special birthday, a 13-year-old birthday, so we need to sing happy birthday. So let's start this off first. Ready? You go ahead. And because it's member James's son.
It is. It's my son's 13th birthday.
Yes.
So I was campaigning on his
Yes.
12th birthday and missing his 13th birthday. So Member Hodge has promised him a car from me, so thank you for that. But I do want to say happy birthday to Maxwell.
Yes.
And happy 13th.
Happy 13th, and we can sing can we sing really quick for him?
Yeah.
All right, let's ready.
But we got to be on pitch, though.
Okay, all right, let's go. Let's 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jacksonville. Happy birthday to you. Yeah.
Yay, happy birthday, Max.
Okay, so I guess I do got to go first. I also want to, we've had, as President Garcia said, we have some loss in our community. We lost Adonis Harris, McClintock Sr., who I got a chance to meet maybe his freshman year, sophomore year. He was in the band. He was also a drama student. He was a part of student council. He was just all around a phenomenal student who had the biggest heart that you could imagine. And the last time I saw him, he was asking a girl to homecoming. And then I saw him that Saturday at the band concert, event at Corona. I was there for a minute. And I just want to tell his family that, that we appreciate every moment that we had with him in our McClintock and our Tempe Union family. So thank you. And my second one is to Mr. Jim Snow, who was at Desert Vista. He was a pillar of Desert Vista. He has done numerous things. When I first met him, he was head of security. Actually, he wasn't head of security. He was becoming head of security. He was still a security guard. I have seen him be the head of security. I've seen him be a football coach, and I've seen him be equipment manager. If anybody had the thunder spirit, the pride of the Thunder, Jim Snow would have been that person that you can rely on to be positive and was always a part of Desert Vista's family. So he will truly be missed. And I know Armando probably knows him very well as a student, but I got to know him as a parent and as a friend. So on that, I'm going to leave all the rest of my things alone, because those two I want to stand out and let them stand by themselves. And again, happy birthday, Max. Make sure your mom gets that car for you, and make sure it's expensive.
Who would like to go next?
I guess I'm going next. I first want to echo Member Hodges' points. I had some of my own things to say, but I think she said it perfectly. And they were both, very valued members of our community. And I was heartbroken to hear the news, but definitely want to thank the families for all that they gave to our district and to the families in our district. I also, this past week, had the chance to visit the Corona robotics team at their competition over at ASU. So I want to give a thank you to Stephen Heiser for all that you're doing and the incredible job you're doing for those students. I mean, the club has grown tremendously, even through the pandemic. And we got to experience the first all-women's drive team, which was pretty amazing to see. But just to see the collaboration and spirit of all of those students together and the safe space that club has created for those students is pretty amazing. And again, to thank all of our community partners that have contributed and helped in that effort. Also, we had the chance to visit McClintock for the field dedication for their new turf field. It's a beautiful field. It was a good game to visit and to see everyone, so congratulations to them. And that is all I have.
All right, going down the line. Yes, I saw Aldis perform in September, and I know Board Member Montero and President Garcia had the opportunity to see him. And in that performance, he brought so many people to tears with his solo. And so learning a little bit more about him as a person, being in the band, playing tuba when he started 4 years ago when he moved to Arizona from Indiana. He was applying to historically black colleges and universities, and he was an activist in our community, a strong voice, and his parents would worry about him going out, and he'd always tell them not to worry, and he'd say, don't worry about me, let me be great. And he was really doing a lot in our community, and it was really, really hard to hear him, having heard his voice, and learned a little bit about who he was and what he's done and how he's impacted our community. So just our thoughts and love goes to the family. And same for Mr. Snow at Desert Vista. It's been a whirlwind of 3 weeks. The field dedication was fabulous, being able to meet Mr. Lyons, the principal. The field's named after, the field is beautiful. The Corona Marching Invitational was fabulous. They put on such a wonderful event for students. And just seeing students on the field again and marching and together was fantastic. I was able to catch Corona's performance, and they were outstanding. I brought my daughter in hopes that maybe I could sway her into the world of marching band. We'll see how that goes. And then I was able to, along with Board Member Hodge, visit Tempe High to see some of the ofrendas that the students in the ELL class had created, and they were fabulous. The artwork was gorgeous. The thought behind it was phenomenal. And then we got to interview the students, and they were telling us about why they made it, who they made their ofrenda for, and what everything meant that was included. So it was really fabulous to see that work and hear the students' explanations. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I've had of 3 weeks and lots of conversations happening. I'm thankful that we did at least have this information piece presented regarding the resolution, because I do think it's going to be a step that's going to help address our concerns. One of my friends mentioned to me that board service is probably the best professional development you'll ever go through. And that perspective has been helping me this week, well, 3 weeks. Because as a teacher, when I go to professional development, I want to learn something new. And I want to come out better for it. And so this past 3 weeks has done that. That has been my perspective, looking at this as professional development, getting better understanding of more. It's really learning on the job. And having many hours, I haven't counted, of conversations with experienced board members, community members, teachers, executive team. And I do feel I've come out of this a better board member. So I'm really excited to do the work together at our next meeting to ensure that the resolution is clarified, concerns are addressed appropriately, and that the clear intent and purpose will be to equitably serve all our students and staff will be accomplished. So that's it for me.
I think everyone kind of hit on the past few weeks we've been having. It's been a roller coaster with, like loss and stress, and I hope everyone is well. It's really great to see you all here tonight. We're moving into more of that normalcy, and it's been a while since we've seen faces, in our board meetings. So I'd just like to tell the students, just keep showing up, and not just necessarily in person, but your voices, keep advocating for them. In this moment, this district, you don't have to be a graduate. You don't have to be a registered voter to make an impact in the district. You are, a stakeholder in it. There's a lot of issues that we get from students, and so I really appreciate when students show up, and it's very comforting to see them continually show up, because I know board meetings aren't exactly things that are on your radars, and something that you guys really desire to come to and put on the schedule. So it always, means a lot to the board when we hear students, input. I really just want to say that, and that this continues to be a civics lesson, right? Community. This is the essence of community where we are right now talking about these issues. And, no matter what, I think we are stronger for the democracy, stronger for this moment. And we will continue to work together. And I just ultimately want to say, I wish you all well. I hope you all are doing well. And we'll just continue to move forward together. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, everyone. And the joy of being at the end is everyone has already said everything. But I do want to echo the loss of Al and Mr. Snow. Anytime we have a loss, it really hits me personally hard, and I know our board and our teams and our sites as well. But in particular with Al, seeing his performance too at McClintock in the choir and having his solo, and getting to know his personality and his passions with the band and drama, etc., is really heartbreaking, because he is such a bright light. And I can't imagine the pain and the grieving that's going on with his friends and community at McClintock and his family. So my condolences to the family, and recognize that it's a difficult time for them and the school. So, and I know we have our Tempe Care 7 folks over and helping as well, but I just wanted to focus on them, and grateful that we have the community that we do to provide that support for them. Having said that, move to communications.
Can I say one more thing before you
Yes.
go? I pushed the button. I remember a quote that I think will fit the moment. Your fingerprints never fade from the lives you touch. So, and that's my favorite quote of all time. I keep that on everything, on my email, everything that you see. So their fingerprints will never fade.
No, thanks for sharing that, Member Hodge. Next, we have communications from our superintendent and our executive team. Dr. Mendeville?
None, thank you.
All right.
Okay. Executive team, no. Okay.
All right. Okay, then our next regular meeting is November 17th, 2021. With adjournment, I move to adjourn. May I have a second?
Mr. President, I second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.